we'll go ahead and start the meeting, if I may. My name is Valit. I'm filling in for a wonderful chair, Barbara Cooper. She decided that she needed a break, so she flew to New York. Very unfortunate that with all the smoke. I think it's getting a little bit better anyway. We wish her all the best. Again, I want to welcome you. If you would, if you are not receiving our mailings, please do sign in if you would like to receive them at the front desk there, actually, in the front desk in the back there. A couple of housekeeping items, if I may. Most of you probably know the exit doors for this building right now, for this room, is to my right, on this one here, and the far left. And the bathrooms through this door next to the coffee. By the way, the coffee is by Sarah, which we really appreciate that, along with the tea. And of course, there you go, all right. And then the tea also, appreciate that. Now the cookies are by Rita. Thank you, Rita. The unfortunate thing is I can't just have one cookie. I have to eat several anyway. I also want to recognize Zane. As you probably know, Zane is Rita's grandson. And that's very kind of Rita, actually. She's keeping the whole family busy with us, so we appreciate that. Thank you, Zane. What I was going to tell you also, at the back there is a table that has some literature and forms, especially if you haven't, they call it registered for voting. We have the forms for them, and we also have some of the candidate literatures, if you would like them. Just to remind you that the Fidalgo Democrats are an independent democratic association with focus on education. We are not a PAC, but we do not endorse candidates, nor we contribute to their campaigns. Now, we do not charge dues, however, we do pass the hat. And any contributions will be really appreciated. We primarily use these contributions to pay for the coffee, for Rita's cookies, and also for Zane's activities, as well as some other incidentals that we need them for. Before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge that we Fidalgo Democrats would like to acknowledge that we gather on indigenous land, the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Samish and the Swinomish people, and pay our respect to elders, past, future, and past, present, and future. So a little bit of advertisement for our next meeting. It's on July the 11th. I think we have a very good presentation for you lined up. It's about the environmental issues. We have two very good speakers, Todd and Karen Mitchell from the Department of Environmental Protection from the tribes. I think you'll enjoy them. Anyway, if your time permits, please do join us. That's again on July the 11th. Our Pride Parade is on June the 17th, that's this coming Saturday, at 10 o'clock. It will be in Anacortes. And Sarah is going to tell us a little bit more about it, please.
Okay. We didn't have a very big turnout for the Fidalgo Democrats last time. It was our first year. We didn't really talk it up. We had a few people. Skagit Dems walked with us, and we had a few people. We would like to have a much bigger showing this time. The time when we get together is going to be between 9:30 and 10:30. Be sure to be there before 10:30 and meet us at Commercial and 3rd. Sorry, sounds loud to me. Thank you.
Oh, and 3rd. Isn't it? Oh?
No, Commercial and 3rd, and it'll go around to O as it lines up. So you find number 10 chalked on the street, and that is where the Fidalgo Dems will be gathering. We will have a banner, we'll have some flags, we had a really good time last time. I will be dressed up. I hope everybody will be dressed up in as many colors as possible. So hope to see you there. And afterwards, at the celebration in Causland Park, we will have a table and we will have voter registration forms there for get the young folks to sign up. Any questions? Yes.
Not a question, but I'm a member of an anti-racist group, and we will have a table at Causland Park with a zine of racist occurrences in Anacortes since the town was founded. So please stop by that booth and pick up a zine. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, Rita.
Talk about our candidates forum on July 6th. July 6th, Thursday.
So say it again, please.
On July 6th, that's a Thursday at 7 p.m. here at the library, we'll be hosting a forum for the primary candidates for the 3rd Ward Council, City Council, and the school board. So please come meet the candidates and get to know them.
And not to be undone or outdone, one more announcement if you don't mind. On July 4th, Fidalgo Democrats are going to be walking with Skagit Democrats in Anacortes. So please pencil it in on your calendars if you will. We would love to see you walk with us. I usually have a lot of fun, distributing, what do you call it, flags and other goodies, so it should be nice. Folks, we have 2 exceptional speakers today that I'll be turning the mic to them very shortly. But before that, just a brief recognition. How many PCOs do we have today? Could you have, please? PCOs.
Thanks for doing that.
Thank you. Yes, that's very nice. These folks, they work very hard, and they are the cornerstone or the infrastructure, if you will, of the party, in my judgment. I want to recognize a special individual today. She has been, in my judgment, the mama of Fidalgo Dams for the last almost 2 decades now. And every time we say Fidalgo Democrats, she comes to mind. Not to take anything from Barbara, but Corinne has been the wonderful person who has been keeping us together for all the time. And she has a couple of things to say.
Really, I can always count on you to embarrass me.
I just have one thing, not a couple of things. Thank you. One of our members, Jim Taylor, passed away May 17th from end-stage Parkinson's. Jim was a longtime Democrat, active in both Skagit Dams and Fidalgo Dams, and also a former state committeeman with Washington State Democrats. He was on our Fidalgo Dam steering committee for many years, and he regularly attended our meetings both in person and on Zoom. Jim was married to Lenore Peterson, right here, a retired nurse practitioner. Cards may be sent to Lenore at 301 5th Street. Of his several occupations, Jim most enjoyed being a boat captain, and he was the skipper of the Sophia Christina. There will be a celebration at the Senior Activity Center Saturday, August 12th at 2 p.m. Thank you. I hope you can attend.
Thank you, Jody. I also want to extend our thanks to Don Ambrose. I think most of you are probably receiving his weekly newsletter from Skagit Dams, as well as Carol and Rich Tambler. Are they here today? For the Whidbey Island newsletter. So we appreciate these folks. You know, they really working very hard, especially I know Don does every week. Publishing this newsletter is not an easy task. And again, my thanks to Mr. Zain in the back and his grandma Rita for the cookies and as well as recording these meetings. So I appreciate you folks. Thank you guys. With that, I'm going to turn to our wonderful speakers here. We have Anastasia. She doesn't need any introductions, I think. I'm going to let her there. And we have Lyndon Jordan, which most of you probably know. The agreement with them, I'm going to let them introduce themselves as we go through. And I think Anastasia agreed to go first, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct? Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to put the microphone there, so.
Oh, you want us to do the presentation first? Yeah, okay. I'm good. Yeah. Sure. Hi, everybody. Hi. There's so many great people here, and I'm so appreciating being given the opportunity to talk with you. Look at that. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. I don't even think we're not. Okay, here we go. And yeah, well, okay. So I'd really like to give you permission, the openness, the possibility, or the ability to ask anything you want. This is a great opportunity to speak to someone who's in your neighborhood that is part of the LGBTQ community, and I want to let you know it's okay to ask. I am married, I have a wife, I have these 2 children here, and we have an experience here in Anacortes. We came from Whidbey Island originally, and then Seattle before that. But I want to let you know that there's no question that is wrong or bad or too intimate. I have good boundaries. I'll let you know if it's not okay, and I don't want to talk about that in public. But I want you to have the opportunity to talk about it, because we have a very violent time right now for a lot of folks. And it's okay for us to kind of come together and feel connection. And if you don't feel connection, let's do that. Let's do that together. So when Barb asked me if I would talk here, I asked questions, so what exactly are you wanting to know? And she said, well, we want to know how to be better allies. So I created this PowerPoint, how to ally like a boss. I want to make sure in this conversation that we are remembering that it is not about marginalized people versus non-marginalized. It's about humanity. So the violence you hear that's happening to our trans family, to our queer family, to our black and brown families, it's us. That's humanity. We want a humane country. And so we'll stick together to ensure that our liberties and our rights together are strong. So here's some actions that we can do together. Anyway, sorry. So action. Instead of thinking about being an ally, how about a co-conspirator? So a lot of folks feel like saying that they're an ally feels very passive and like I can give money and then I've done my part. A co-conspirator means that you have skin in the game, that you're saying I am not gonna let this pass. I'm not gonna let this move forward without me giving my one voice to say, no thank you, that's not what we are. I don't know if any of you know Valerie Kaur. She wrote this beautiful book, but she has a TEDx talk, and she talks about birthing this nation. So, a lot of folks are talking about, let's make America great again. She's saying, let's make America great for the first time. We're birthing her now. And we're having these labor pains, and then we have rest, and then the labor pains again. And that really spoke to me, particularly in this moment. So silence equals death. So if you feel like you can use your voice in any way, shape, or form, it's going to matter. When Valid talked about coming to the Pride Parade, and Sarah talked about coming to the Pride Parade, that there were a small group last year, I want you to know my children, we see the rainbow flags or the rainbow lawn signs, and they say, look, it's Rainbow Family. That's our Rainbow Family. They see your signs and know that they're seeing that our family matters to you. It is so powerful to be able to see that. Because before the Pride Parade, I didn't really see a lot of flags around. I didn't see a lot of statements that said, you matter. We want you here. Not just we'll tolerate you, but we want you here. Those lawn signs do that for us. So in any way that you feel like you can show up that way, know that my kids are watching, and other kids as well. And me too. Another action, refuse to make your families the normal default, the default as the norm. So when we see families, we assume what a normal family is, which is what? I mean, everyone can probably say white, straight, middle class, able-bodied, housed, English speaking. Challenge what that means to be the default norm. Say, actually, my family is one of many ways of being a family. Maybe some of you are raising grandkids or having your children live with you right now. This is the time, right? I mean, it's hard. I just saw something today that said that, food's going up again in price, and that's hard. It's hard. So make sure that we're including everybody so that a norm is bigger than what mainstream is telling us. And in that vein, when you hear people that have different families or different experiences, remember that their lived experience is true. It's okay if you don't understand it. It's okay if it makes you wonder about your own self and your identity. It's okay. Just know that that lived experience is true, just like yours. And that we can live in discomfort, contradiction. Holy smokes. I mean, has there ever been a time where you loved your parents and hated them at the same time? I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. Action. Get a lawn sign for said reason. It used to be you can get them at, thank you, Pelican. I get Pelican and Penguin mixed up. I know that's terrible, but anyway. And you can get them at the new store, Sugar Mama's Cafe. They're $20 there. And you can go on the website, the anacortespride.org website, and purchase, and they will deliver it to your house if you can't come out. And again, those lawn signs say, the other signs don't define us. We're making sure that you know that we are a lot more complex than just, the Trump revenge tour flag that is up on commercial, or, let's go Brandon, or whatever, Yeah, that's okay, that's their opinion, but that's not the opinion of the town. And when you don't put your voice out there, or sign, or letter to the editor, or whatever, there's an assumption that you also are that. So it matters. Action, march in the pride parades. And it's plural. We had, Cedar Woolley had their pride parade already, didn't they? No, they haven't yet. So important. We're hearing that they could really use support. They could really have more bodies there to let the community know that they are cared about and loved. There's a lot of violence that's happening, and we're just letting them know that that's not okay. Yeah. You can do many different things. Maybe you're not comfortable walking in an actual parade. That's okay. Clapping on the sidelines counts. Being in another bigger organization counts. In any parade that I've been in, a pride parade, you can just get out and walk wherever you want, and you will be accepted. So wherever it feels comfortable for you. Help advertise the parades, let them know that they're happening. The board is a completely full volunteer board, and they do their very best, but they're also parents and full-time, workers and have other things too. So they do their very best. So word of mouth, letting your churches know, letting your synagogues, orgs, whatever, people that you're around, neighbors, have a little picnic and talk about how you're gonna go and make signs and be there. When we were there last year, I held up a sign that said something like trans kids matter or something like that, or hands off our trans kids. That's what I had. And I cannot tell you how powerful it was to see parents standing, they're clapping and they're moving towards me and they're crying. They didn't know that there were people in this community that thought that their kids mattered. So again, please know that however you can show up, it's gonna speak volumes. Okay, why we march. So I don't know if any of you know the history of a Pride Parade, but it was at a time when police officers felt emboldened to come into our gay bars where those of us who were gay could come and be connected with other people and feel camaraderie, feel support, feel connected. That these police officers would come in and arrest us. What would happen next is that the newspaper would print who was in that gay bar and who was arrested. So if I was Catholic, my church would see that. If my parents or my family or if I was married, saw that, I would be outed without my permission. Jobs, people would lose jobs. So there was a lot on the line. They lost a lot. And the violence that happened was horrific. It was particularly trans black women who are on the front lines with their bodies to let us still be here. My family would not exist without their lives. They're my lineage. They're my ancestry. That matters. We need to make sure that we include that and not isolate, it's okay if you're lesbian and gay, but not bisexuals. It's okay if you're, lesbian, gay, bi, but not transsexuals. No, it's all or nothing. Because we put a lot on the line to be able to be here, and I want to honor that. It's a place that people felt comfortable and then not. So you can imagine that a lot of folks in the LGBTQ community feel kind of worried about any of the spaces that feel safe, because historically they have not been safe. Another action, support your GSA. We have the Anacortes High School, Casey Anderson, that's her email, and the middle school, we have, what's her name, T. Kirby. My apologies, I can't remember. Anyway, so I'm talking to her if she's watching this video. My apologies. So make sure that you connect with them. Ask if you could have a student rep there. Tell them that they're important, their voice matters. What's going on in the school for them? There's a lot of talk that the adults are doing. How do you feel about it? What do you want? So and I'm going to just put that out there, there's a lot of power in the PTA, in the Parent Teacher Association or Parent Teacher Student Association. And it seems like a lot of the times it's being used to raise money for the end of the year parties or what have you. It can be something different, and in fact, there is a DEI whole toolkit that the PTA, the National PTA has, that hasn't really been used in our town. So it's something to consider, and would love to have more hands on.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is a GSA?
Yes, it used to be Gay Straight Alliance, and now it's gender sexuality. Yes, or yes. And sexual orientation, yeah. Yeah, so it's in high school, my friend Casey says it's a lot of non-binary kids who aren't feeling male or female, they're feeling one or the other, they maybe feel a mix or questioning who they are, and so they're in this group to find other kids that feel the same way and get support. A lot of time.
Are you saying that this organization is in the high school or the junior high school or wherever?
Yeah, it's a not a booster club, but it's a after
Club.
club.
Yeah.
It's a club.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for asking that. Yeah. Another way that I would love to help support us all in having more diversity is to have a commission for our town that would support DEIA, which is Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility, for anything from the city and what they're going to do, new programs, new buildings being built, new can't remember the other thing I was thinking of, the new thing, and also in the schools. It would be great to have a separate group of people that would be on the lookout. And if you look at the Edmonds, city of Edmonds, they have a great website on what they're doing, including movies that you can watch and book resources and podcasts, and it's really cool. And it's a great way for anyone who's interested in really having a more diverse city to use. We're coming up on some voting, and it would be great as Democrats if we could ask every candidate, give us your statement on DEI, and what will you do proactively to make our community more inclusive of those communities we don't see a lot of in Anacortes? How will you ensure every LGBTQ2+IA child and young person can flourish for the school board? And if they don't acknowledge that our youth have a differently hard time than other youth, they're giving lip service or they just don't know yet. When will you know that you have made strides towards equity for LGBTQ youth and their safety and others? And our Indigenous kids, and our Black and brown kids. Don't separate. We're all talking about humanity.
What is 2+IA?
Yeah, so Two Spirit, we used to use plus, and Lyndon, you've got more history in this than I do, but the plus was to include those who don't fit in the letters. Intersex is the other one. That's the circle that you now see on a flag, a rainbow flag. And asexual. Yeah. So when Shelley and I, so we've been married 3 times. They all counted, but when it counted federally, we were living on Whidbey Island, and I did not know how much internalized homophobia, meaning I'm living in the same world that you are, and the messages that you get about what's normal and what isn't, and what it means to be in a healthy relationship and isn't. I'm swimming in those same waters, right? I did not know how much internalized homophobia I had until we were able to be federally recognized, and I felt comfortable holding her hand in public. Didn't even know that I was worried about that beforehand. and that I was able to say wife. I used to use words that people wouldn't notice, like partner, because I was afraid that if they knew, then I wouldn't be heard, wouldn't be listened to, wouldn't be seen as viable. It matters. So I ran for school board last time around, and I'm saying this because as a queer woman, I was asked things that other people weren't asked. I had a woman walk with me who is liberal, who wanted to tell me her personal sexual experiences with another woman. I don't know her, but I felt like that was entirely inappropriate, and that somehow she thought that that would make us connected. Just want you to know that's not okay. That's not okay. I was also shamed for my experience with safety around people calling themselves Christian. So I asked actually one of my opponents, what do you mean when you say Christian? Because my experience has been, you know, when I came out, my sister would said, love the sinner, hate the sin. And she wouldn't talk to me. And my dad said, how's that different than bestiality? So I had some worry about that. And I was trying to connect with her because I knew that we both wanted something good for this community, and, you know, trying to find the common bonds. And that I got shamed. I got this circle of other people that called me and said I needed to apologize and all this other stuff. It was not so fun. Currently, we have a Facebook page, Anacortes Pride. There's an events page that people are emboldened to talk about us being disgusting and that we are grooming children. Know that that tactic is in a loop. It's in a cycle. That has come up before. People keep bringing things up to inflame, but if you've lived around here for a minute, you know that that was something that has happened before and it doesn't work. But it still hurts. So I know that you all probably understand how much intensity there is around this part of our humanity, the LGBTQ community, the book bans, the Don't Say Gay, the anti-trans laws, and the Supreme Court changes that threaten my marriage and parenthood. It's very personal, and I'm hopeful that you will have my back when it comes down to voting. So the history of Anacortes Pride. You might know that, gentleman.
Looks familiar.
Yeah, it rings a bell. So it started out as a Facebook Pride, Anacortes Pride Facebook page. And people wanted to go march in the 4th of July parade. Okay, great. We did, and there were what? I know a lot of you were there, like almost 100 youth. I mean, there were a lot of youth there. Had no idea. That just blew us out of the water. So excited to see that. So that was the reason why we created a nonprofit, Anacortes Pride, to have a pride parade. That's why we wanted to do it, because we had so many youth that felt identified in this community that we didn't have access to, that we didn't have the ability to let them know that they were safe, that we were here to give them financial support or whatever they wanted. So, so that's how we started it. We asked Mayor Miller for a proclamation, and he wouldn't give it. So the city council signed a resolution, which is a lot more powerful. And yeah, thanks to every single one of them to say, no, that's not okay. There's no way for the resolution to be vetoed. So that was a stronger decision than just having the mayor's proclamation. Before our first Pride Parade last year, there was a man who lived in Oak Harbor on Whidbey Island who was part of this dark, it's like a dark social media area where people were talking about gays and how they would, try to stop me from bringing my gun and blah, blah, blah. They targeted Anacortes Pride. And this second, you can't see because it's so tiny, but they posted all of our pictures from the website. So you'll notice that if you go to the website, you won't see pictures of us there because of the safety there.
Where did they post it? On their website?
Yeah, there is a whole dark social media thing that's separate from the ones that we normally go to.
This was posted on Facebook with explicit threats for the board members of Anacortes Pride, though. This wasn't on the dark web. This
Yeah, it was. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe it was.
That photograph of the death penalty for fags is from Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes, of course. It says Facebook right there. But the other thing, oh yeah, they're both Facebook.
It's Facebook.
Oh.
There was a lot of other information about that guy, but the
Oh.
threats were on Facebook.
So yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. My bad. Yeah, it was on Facebook, which is worse because, dang. Yeah. So now this person was arrested like the day before the Pride Parade happened. We made a police report. They said they tried their best. But he was actually wanted for other things that were more horrific. They had a SWAT team and they had the FBI involved. So he went down and we're fine. But it was like, whoa, pretty intense. So how can the Democratic Party show up for us? Don't allow the LGBTQ community to be a side issue, that we're all about humanity. If it's happening to one of us, it's happening to all of us. And that also means our people of the global majority, our Black, brown, indigenous folks too. Invite our youth to sit at the table and let them take initiative for something that is important to them. Give them support financially and mentorship to make their voices heard. Keep pushing for a DEI commission so that our city and our school district has a group of people who can speak to the ways we can support a community that wants all of its members safe and able to live in peace. And remember, it's our shared humanity. And support Anacortes Pride's history project for the museum. So we just have about enough of our photos from last year that will be put in the museum. I hope you'll come out when we have an opening and share in the celebration of us having that in our history books. And just to say, I love my family. Yep, and that's my mom and her wife. That's my children and my sister and nephews, and then my kids and my wife. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Do I get to be next?
Please, yes.
Cool.
Save the best for last.
No, thank you, Anastasia. It's important. History is important. History is very important. So I'm Lyndon Jordan, and I am the president of PFLAG Skagit. How many of you have, I show up here all the time to take a microphone and run my mouth. How many of you have seen me talk over here at some point? Okay, twice. Okay, all right. Cool, the rest of you have not. All right. Well, I chose not to do an actual PowerPoint tonight. I do a presentation that's called The Science of Gender. And I'm going to talk some about that, even though I'm not going to show you any pictures. Because, and in coming here tonight, what I thought about is PFLAG walks a very fine line at this time of year around election time. We are a nonprofit. We are not political. We do not endorse candidates, just like you. However, we do talk about issues. And there are about, 549 of them coming up in this election. That's how many bills were filed this legislative session that were anti-trans. And I want to tell you right from the very beginning that I myself am transgender. And yes, Rosemary.
549 49 bills? Where?
Oh my gosh. In 49 of the 50 states, almost every state had some of these bills proposed to state legislatures. And some of them had as many as 15, 20. Some of the ones in the South were hit very, very hard with these bills. And, you know, I'll see 49 of them passed. There are still some pending that could pass, and a number of them were signed by governors. You've heard the news. I assume you know the nature of some of the bills. But as somebody who is transgender, I care very deeply about your level of education about people who are trans. 80%, in a poll that was done a few months ago, 80% of the people in this country said, we don't know anybody who is trans. Nope, don't know one of them. So as of tonight, you know at least one. Okay? This is very important. And this is a lot of what I'm doing right now, as I'm going out and I'm speaking, just so that people can say, oh, I know one. So that in the state of Washington, everybody can say, oh, this is good. So that is part of your duty, is to remember me. All right? Remember me. But mostly, I care about the amount of malicious disinformation that is being disseminated about the trans community. And I continue. I mean, I've been a prosecutor in my life. I was a trial lawyer. I prosecuted people who had committed horrendous crimes. I've seen dark, I've seen ugly, I've seen horrid. What's happening now, I'm still baffled by. The kind of mentality that would target the smallest population of people in this country, trans kids, and go after them with a viciousness that is pretty hard to fathom for me. And you know, in my experience, I was one of those trans kids. I knew I was trans when I was 4 years old. I didn't have a name for it. I grew up in West Virginia in a little small town. My parents were both evangelical Christian, and I did not acknowledge my transness to myself until my early 20s. But I lived my entire life presenting, performing as a woman, until I was 63 years of age. At 63, I transitioned, finally, to who I know I was. We are all of a certain age in this room, most of us. We share some common themes in that way. And to me, it was important to spend at least a little bit of my life authentically being who I was. But that says something to you, I hope. And that is that this thing called gender is fascinating. I've been a student of gender all my life. I went to college, I went to grad school in psychology, trying to understand what is this thing in some of us where we know from a very early age that whatever is on our birth certificate is not who we are. This thing called gender, what does it mean? It controls all of us. Every single one of us is not only controlled but harmed by this thing called gender. And we act like it's always been around. We act like gender has always been here, and that there's some divine presence that says males are this and females are this. And as part of that divine presence, girls wear pink and boys wear blue. And do you know that pink and blue wasn't even a thing until after World War II? And do you know why it became a thing? Because clothes manufacturers decided they could sell more clothing. If they told you that your girls and boys can't wear the same thing, because girls have to wear pink and boys have to wear blue. Gender has always been a tool of the elite and the powerful, always. Because it has been used, first and foremost, against women. Women. Stunning, isn't it, to think that not that long ago, you didn't vote. And you didn't vote because people didn't think you had the brains to vote. How horrid. In the hands of men, gender has been used to build empires and to keep women silent. Religion has used gender to be able to maintain a fiction that says that our women are not competent in their beliefs. I sound a little bit like a Southern Baptist preacher. And I will tell you that as a kid, that was my strength. That was my strength. I had watched a lot of preachers, and they were good. We had good preachers. I mean, they could singe the hair on the back of your neck when they were in the pulpit. And they sweat. I mean, they just sweat when they'd get up there and they'd get going and they'd be screaming and they'd get hoarse. And they'd have these red bandanas. And you use red bandanas, right? Everybody had bandanas. And they'd be mopping their heads, you know, and they'd be doing this, and they'd be waving that red bandana. So from the age of 6 on, I became the preacher when I played with my playmates. I was always the preacher. And I had my little red bandana. And you should have heard me. I was good. I had it all down. I knew more scripture than a lot of the other people in the church did, because I took it seriously. But the thing is, it is a very serious thing to think about right now in this day and age, because we are at a tipping point. And this tipping point is horrifying to some of us. To me, it's so exciting because it's our kids. I spend a lot of time with middle school and high school kids. And you know what? They ain't buying it anymore. My favorite thing that kids say is they say, I am non-binary. What does that mean? That means this whole gender thing. Thank you, Ollie. Do you have an answer?
I'm non-binary.
Are you non-binary? What does that mean to you, Ollie?
You tell Mom.
Yeah, you tell them, Mom.
Ollie doesn't want to be called a boy or a girl. Before he even learned the word non-binary, people would ask them their gender, and they would say, I'm a kid. This disgusted look on their face, like, what difference does that make?
I adopt that.
And then as soon as
Yeah.
they learned the word non-binary, they were like, that's me.
That's me.
Non-binary. Yep.
And it's rampant among 5th graders. I love this because I've been to a lot of classes like this. And what I love about this is it's going to be a lot harder to keep these kids down. And we're gonna make some changes, people. You asked the question about LGBTQB and all these stupid initials. You know, I want there to be a day when I can say, I get to love who I want to love. If my loving somebody doesn't hurt you, let it be. I want to say, I'm like Ollie. I want to say, don't put me in a box. I want to be who I am. And I can be anywhere across the spectrum on that. One of my favorite things to do when I go to high school classes, a lot of times I get asked to come and teach about the science of gender. But one of the exercises I love to do with high school students is to say, all right, to the boys in the room, who is the manliest person you can think of? Who's the manliest man? I mean, the epitome of manhood. Who is it?
What do they say?
Well, you know, a lot of times they say somebody that I don't even recognize anymore because I'm too old. You know what I mean, Rosemary?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But you know, I always say Rambo because I always thought that Sylvester Stallone was of course, the manliest man. And then who is the most feminine woman you can think of? Well, you know, in our day, it was Greta Garbo, it was all the Marilyn Monroe, all of these. And then I asked the high school kids to imagine that Rambo is at this end and Marilyn Monroe is over here. And I want the boys to put yourselves somewhere on this line between the middle and Rambo. Where do you think you are in that? And then the girls, I say, okay, your job is to put yourself in the middle between where middle is and where this most beautiful Madonna. Let's do Madonna, okay? Are you on the path to amazing femininity or the ultimate in masculinity. It was hilarious because the boys couldn't get to Rambo fast enough. All the boys way down here at this end. And it's funny because I said, well, what is it about you that makes you Rambo? You're going to love this answer. A couple of the boys said, I have a penis. Wow. Give me something to say to that. Can you imagine? What do you say to that? Well, good for you. But listen to what the women did. There wasn't a single woman that went to Madonna. The women were all down towards the middle. And I know that part of that was self-esteem, because women are horrible to themselves. Young women are very horrible to themselves about how they look. But in a way, I think what they got, what I was trying to get at, which is we are all somewhere on this wonderful spectrum of things that have been labeled masculine and feminine. And what they're talking about, hang with me, Ollie, you'll get there, we'll get there. Because what they're talking about, what we talk about when we talk about gender is we talk about behaviors, don't we? Somebody told us at some point that there are certain things that women do and certain things that men do, and you don't cross over. That's how I knew I was in trouble early on in my life. Because all of my best friends wanted Dale Evans outfits. Finally, I have a crowd that actually knows what I'm talking about. This is amazing, people. Wow. I used to show a slide, and when I get to this next thing, which is, I didn't want a Dale Evans outfit. I wanted Roy Rogers. And I was fit to the nines with the Roy Rogers outfit. I had double guns, the whole thing, man. That was who I was. And so this slide I used to show, I would have a little thing on it that would play Happy Trails. I thought it was very funny. Nobody laughed. Most of the crowds, you would have gotten it. Most of my crowds didn't laugh about that. So anyway, I finally removed it, Rosemary. I was embarrassed. Kind of. Yeah. Rosemary humbles me. That's why I have Rosemary show up. She's always got me humble. Anyway. The point of my sermon here is to ask you to really think about gender and what gender means, because this is a spoiler alert. And what I'm about to say here, you may quote me on. We made it all up. You got it, Ollie. And it's your job. It's your job to unmake it. Because, I don't know, I always ask in crowds, how many of you women have ever used a chainsaw? Uh-oh, Rambo, you're over here in the Rambo department. Exactly. And when I transitioned, this is living 63 years presenting as a woman, I really feel like trans men should be asked a lot of really important questions, because I wouldn't take anything for the things I learned living as a woman in this culture. And I wouldn't take a thing for the fact that I still get to keep that. The fact that I transitioned, the fact that I took testosterone, the fact that I changed my appearance doesn't do anything. And I remember I asked my doctor that when I went to my doctor and said, I want to transition. Will I lose the parts of me that I actually really love? Which is my empathy, is my softness. Will that go away? And my doctor said, of course not. You're going to be the same person. And that was true. Because I love the fact that I have both parts of myself. Do I want to wear a dress? No. Do I like to do feminine things as we define it? Ollie can do any behaviors that Ollie wants to do. If Ollie wants to play with dolls, fine.
I do have a dollhouse.
See? I told you, Ollie, you're there. You're there. You know? And Cedar's got that vest on and looks like Cedar's going hunting. That's the point of this discussion, is we have to find a way to lighten up. And the fact that right now somebody is willing to deny trans kids medically necessary care, we cannot tolerate this. This will not stand. And I do not understand how a party that talks about wanting freedom for people is doing this. But that's because it's not logical. There's nothing logical about this. It's driven by fear. I like to try and see that fear. I'm a compassionate person, but I also see trans kids. Any of you ever known a trans kid? Kid that's 4 and 5? Yeah. Did you see it?
I'm 7.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you, I define, yeah.
Oh, I saw one at the age of 7. It was my daughter's best friend, and I didn't see her for years. And she became a urologist that does sex exchange. I mean, you know.
Does
Yeah, in Oregon, and I was like, I knew it. I saw her, and I knew who she was.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's your name? She goes, I see you as a Penelope. And she goes, I'm Penelopenis. So I totally saw it. I mean, it was amazing.
I don't, it's the truth. I mean, it is amazing. And there's no doubt about it. That's because kids begin to evidence their gender at about ages 3 and 4. You can see it. You can tell. And what does that all mean in the grand scheme of things? What it means is these kids are engaging in behaviors that don't fit with their sexual anatomy. That's because sometimes people are born and their sense of themselves in terms of the behaviors they like to engage in don't fit with our boxes. And the boxes are the things that are the problem. Now, intersex kids, I always like to talk about intersex kids. How many of you know what intersex means? Wow. I am so happy you are here tonight because this is really important. Because of how beautifully diverse species are. It's the coolest thing. I love to talk about fish. Guppies in particular. And if you buy a harem of girl guppies and you have one male in the harem to service the women, and if something happens to that male, something happens to it, gets eaten by a shark or something, and now they're without a male. Well, the girls all get together and they look at each other and they're looking for somebody that maybe kind of like a dyke. Don't you think, guys? Where's our dyke in the crowd? Where's the butchiest girl? And they say, okay, you're going to be the boy. And miracle of miracles, that fish turns male. That fish develops the beautiful colors of the male guppy. Who knew? But more importantly, that male develops a male sexual reproductive system.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Isn't that stunning? And that's not just guppies. That runs through a lot of species, where species do what they have to do to survive. Chickens. Oh my God, do you want to talk about chickens? I have chickens. I can talk about chickens all day long. And ducks. Excuse me, girls, but I have 2 lesbian ducks. Honestly. And the truth is, that's the truth, is because our parts all come out the way they come out. Biology does that. XX, XY. Well, that was certainly a lie that was fed to us. That's the only way we are. XX, you're a girl. XY, you're a boy. There are 16 different ways those chromosomes come together in the 23rd pair of chromosomes. And each outcome will have some effect on what baby is created. Now that's only the first part of it. Because once you have chromosomes, then you have a fetus that's developing. And that fetus is made up of all these new cells. And these new cells, they have DNA. And DNA tells those cells what they're going to grow up to be. And some of them are going to grow up to be genitals. 40 cells are sent to the area in the body of that little developing fetus. That's where the genitalia will grow. They're called indifferent gonad cells. They don't care who they end up being because it depends on a gene that sits on that Y chromosome that the dad contributes. And that gene has to turn on in order for there to be a male reproductive system. Guys, male development is tenuous at best, okay? Because that gene isn't always on the Y chromosome. It doesn't always turn on. So you can have a male baby, XY chromosome. When that baby is born, that baby has female genitals and has a female reproductive system. What? Yeah. And the other thing's kind of curious is sometimes that gene only partially turns on. It doesn't turn on all the way. And when that happens, you can have somebody, let's say your daughter is 15 years of age and she's not menstruating. Take her to the doctor. She's the only one in her group and hasn't started her period. Take her to the doctor does an exam and says, well, externally, your daughter is female. But internally, your daughter has the male reproductive system. This happens, my friends. It's what nature does. Nature loves diversity. We are not exact replicas of each other. You heard it here. Now, another really interesting thing is that there are there are several different ways that babies end up with genitals where you cannot tell whether this baby has a vagina or a penis. That baby is intersex. That's what the term means. It means that at the point of delivery, I don't know if this baby fits a girl box or a boy box. And unfortunately, what we have done through history and what we do still today is we normalize those genitals. We remove a part of that extra clitoris, just cut it right off and make it look female so that this baby can look normal. Now, there's one person's vote that is missing here because this baby is now going to be raised female. She has been made to look, she has a vulva. She's been made to look female. But you have no idea who that baby's going to be when that baby grows and begins demonstrating what behavior she likes to engage in. Because that baby may have a male brain. That baby may have other aspects of biology that indicates that this baby was actually male and they guessed wrong. Now, I'd like to say they don't do these surgeries anymore. They do them all over the country. They do them here in the state of Washington. And the irony is, these states that have said you can't do surgeries on trans kids, they made an exception for intersex babies. They said, oh, go ahead and do those surgeries on intersex babies because we want them to be normal. Okay? But with intersex babies, you know, people who've grown up intersex, who had these surgeries happen to them, now are talking and saying, don't do anything to the babies. The babies are fine. There's nothing physiologically wrong with them. This is a cosmetic difference. Let the baby grow, see who the great baby's going to be, and then decide as a family what you want to do about this in consultation with doctors who actually know about this. Yeah?
So is this synonymous with a hermaphrodite?
Good question. That's what we used to call hermaphrodite. Only hermaphrodite historically meant that a baby was born with both a penis and a vulva. Very rare to have that happen. You usually have parts of each. I mean, you can have a baby born with one ovary and one testes.
Really?
Yes. Yes, you can have a baby born with no testes. You can have a baby born with no ovaries. I mean, nature loves diversity. Nature creates diversity. We're the ones that have the problem with it. Yes?
Excuse me, you're a lawyer. When a baby is born and you gotta register the birth, there's 3 boxes, right? There's male and female and I don't know.
I wish. That'd be great if they would do I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, we're in such a hurry to do M or F, we're willing to do surgery on a baby in order to fill that damn box in.
But you gotta, if you check don't know, what's gonna happen then?
You let the baby grow up and let the baby show you who it's going to be.
The state of Washington doesn't have don't know, right?
Nobody does. Not at birth. No.
Just checking.
That is the question. What do you do? And that's the problem. That's the reason we've always done surgeries. And you know, it's really interesting, Anastasia, I was going to mention this too. I just recently read a fascinating book on the history of transgender children. In the early from 1910 to 1930, doctors were doing surgeries already on trans people. Just nobody knew about it. They were also doing surgeries on intersex babies, intersex black babies. They were doing all their experimenting about what to do with ambiguous genitalia on black babies. Does it remind you a little bit of something else? Yeah, exactly. I didn't realize that. I had just read this recently. It's a really excellently researched book I was reading. So we have a lot to learn about gender, and one thing is that this is complicated. This isn't like just everybody's in a box and everybody's the same. I mean, for God's sake, have you ever seen the picture that came out, I don't know, it's probably on some social media website, photos of 50 different women, the vulvas of 50 different women. You ever seen a photo of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does it look like? They're all identical, right? All across the map, in the same way that penises differ a ton one from another. I mean, 1 in 3 men are born with a condition called hypospadia, which means that the urethra does not exit at the end of the penis. It exits down underneath the penis. Sometimes it exits abdominally. We have all kinds of ways that we come out of the womb. And the issue is, how do we make room? How do we make room for everybody? So a couple things I just want to make sure you know. What you're hearing is that these surgeries are being done on trans kids prior to the age of 12. That we are castrating male babies in order to turn them into girls, and that we're whacking off the breasts of kids under the age of 12. That is not being done in any place in this nation. That is a lie. It's kind of like saying there are all these kids that are playing athletics who are trans. Love the guy, I think it was Utah, maybe Wyoming, the senator that was all excited about the fact that they had banned trans athletes. Somebody asked the senator, so, Senator, how many trans kids are playing in school sports? Well, I don't know. The reporter says, well, I do. 1. So, you know, there we are. So those surgeries are not happening. To transition, children who know their gender is different than their body are allowed to socially transition. That means at the age of 5 and 6, they get to choose what they wear. They get to choose a name. They get to go to school. In the state of Washington, we have excellent policies in the schools for letting our kids use a name that they identify with and whatever gender they identify with. The pronoun that they want to be called. Everybody's so up in armor about pronouns. Well, you're pretty happy with yours, aren't you? I mean, if I called you he, I mean, you kind of like being called she, don't you? I mean, it indicates that I at least see you. Well, it's the same thing with trans people. It's like, if I've gone to all this work to be who I am, please don't call me she. And then, because I'm going to go, are you blind? That's the other part of it. But anyway, or ask somebody if you don't know. But the bottom line is that nothing is going to happen to these kids that has anything to do with medical treatment until they get to the point of starting puberty. At the point of starting puberty, we now have the ability, thank goodness, to use something called puberty blockers to give our kids a little more time before they and their families have to decide. And what that means is, if you know a trans adult who went through a puberty that they did not identify with, you know that there are changes that happen in our body that we cannot walk back. For example, if a man who always knew he was female went through male puberty, he's got a beard. And I'll tell you what trans women go through to get rid of those is nothing short of intense suffering and very, very expensive. So if we can save our kids from doing this, our trans kids that know already they're transgender, let's do that. Because these kids then can go through their life being exactly who they are. They can go through the puberty that they identify with. They can live their lives not the way we've all had to live them, but in a way that allows them to go forth, not be a spectacle or a freak, as a lot of my friends would say. We have opportunities now that we didn't have before. Kids are not put on hormones until around the age of 15, 16, and that's not done lightly. There are so few providers that do these kinds of pediatric work that it's hard to get in to see anybody. And the kids go through counseling, families go through counseling. It's a big deal, and there's a lot of medical attention paid to getting this right. In order to do any kind of gender-affirming surgery, meaning mastectomies or bottom surgery, 18. You got to be 18 in order to do that. So know that those are the facts, and that a lot of the things that you're reading, I mean, I've had so many people come up to me and say, oh, my family's saying this, this, and this, and it's like, well, you know now. You know what the facts are. And it's important to get this information out. So I've talked a long time. And what else do you want to know? What do you want to ask? I have.
How large a segment of society are trans people? Do you have any idea?
No.
Thank you.
Well, you'll hear 0.7%, you'll hear 3%. You know, trans people are not out there parading their stuff. These people are trying to live, and particularly now.
Yeah, survive.
They're trying to survive, and everybody's kind of trying to just do the best they can do. We don't have any. And plus, during the Trump administration, we didn't do any trans surveys. When Barack Obama was in office, we did a wonderful trans survey every year. Surveyed over 20,000 trans adults, asking really important questions. And that was great, but we haven't had that. We haven't had that. We just did it again last fall, so there'll be some more data coming out. There's no way to know. Kind of like asking how many trans people commit suicide. No idea. No idea. Because a lot of them are buried as their original birth certificate indicated, their sex. So that's, impossible to know. Other questions, other thoughts? There's a lot of material in the back there that I brought that, and there's some pretty cool swag, because I always come with swag. So check it out. Yeah.
What does P-flag stand? What are the letters for?
Okay, I'm not supposed to answer that question.
Okay.
I'm supposed to say, PFLAG is a nonprofit. Are you listening?
Whatever you want.
Okay, this is what I'm supposed to say. PFLAG is a nonprofit that supports, educates about, and advocates for the LGBTQ+ community. PFLAG was started 50 years ago, and at that time it meant parents and friends of lesbians and gays. Kind of exclusive.
Your other answer's better.
Yeah, I thought so. They think so too.
Why don't you say something about the fact that there is a meeting every month on Zoom if people would like to just to come in, even if they came once to meet the people?
Yeah. I can't plug PFLAG enough, and I know I'm biased because I'm the president, but I watch what PFLAG is doing right now. PFLAG joined with the ACLU, and they're suing the bejesus out of Texas right now. Makes me very proud. Makes me so proud. And I have to brag a little bit about what we do here in our county, because we are probably one of the most active PFLAG chapters in the nation here. And we distribute information. I go speak to all kinds of groups like you. We have tons of volunteers that are working. We'll be at the Anacortes Pride Parade, Mount Vernon Pride Parade. If you want something simple to do to really help locally, join PFLAG. $30 will get you a membership. And we have a support group once a month. Rosemary is our star. And what we do is a whole bunch of us just get together online and we talk. We get questions answered. Sometimes the court will order a family or one of the parents to come and join our support group because they're not supporting their kid. And so they can get questions answered there. We're just a group of really good-hearted, kind people trying to figure this all out and trying to make a difference.
Yeah, if you're straight, it just gives you the opportunity to see how wonderful this group is. I can't recommend it enough. And to see some people who have suffered also, it makes you want to do something.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. So, one thing that people can do. And then Anastasia, all the things Anastasia said about being an ally. We need you now more than ever. And it doesn't have to be big. I mean, I just say be an ambassador. Spread this information. Talk about accurate information. That's going to make all the difference in the world. And yes, ask hard questions of people at these forums. Where are you on the issue of LGBTQ rights here in our community? Do you support the clubs in the schools? The clubs in the schools save lives. These kids find community in these clubs, and they make a world of difference for these kids. At least there's one place at school that they know is safe, and that's in their club room. Because yes?
When it comes to hiring and firing, what does the data show? Businesses, how do businesses react to any
Hiring and firing?
Right.
Well, let me tell you a statistic I do know, and that is black trans women have the highest unemployment rate of any marginalized group in the country. Trans people have an impossibly hard time getting jobs. They, in spite of very good discrimination protections in our state, a lot of trans people are evicted from their apartments, and they don't want to make a fuss about it because trans people don't like visibility. So a lot of times they'll just go off and try and figure out a place to live. Oddly enough, probably two of the best employers for the trans community is Walmart and Target. And granted, it's minimum wage jobs, but they do definitely support trans workers. They've done a really good job of that. So that's a good question, and it's hard. PFLAG belongs to the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce, and one reason we do is to try and encourage local businesses to be willing to hire our folks. So, thanks. Yeah?
Female impersonators, can you just speak to that?
Yeah. I think what you're really asking is drag?
I think so.
Yeah.
Where does that all fit in?
Well, you know, drag's well, drag is entertainment, and what I love about drag is it's joyful. You know, the gay and lesbian, our community has a lot of sadness. I mean, I think about the AIDS epidemic. I mean, we've been targeted, through history. And gay men usually are the ones who dance in drag. And I don't know how many of you have been to the Skagit Valley Drag Show at the Lincoln Theater Club at Skagit Valley College. Should put on the first drag show in Skagit County. And I just looked at him and said, "You're out of your mind." And he said, "No, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this." And we did it. And it changed everything for me about drag. So I gotta say, don't knock it till you've tried it. Anastasia.
Yeah, when the pandemic happened, when the pandemic happened, one of Shelley's high school friends is a professional drag performer in New York and a DJ, and he wanted to support his drag family, drag community around the world because they weren't performing and they were losing a lot of money because that's how they were making their living among doing other things. And they did story time for kids. It was 20 minutes long, and we went in, and it saved our bacon. My kids would sit and eat breakfast or lunch or whatever it was, and hear them tell stories about whatever. It was, regular stories. Some of them had history with the book that they were reading from their childhood, and it really had nothing to do with being a performer. It really was just doing something to keep them engaged in the world, and thereby keeping us engaged in the world when everything was shut down. So I really appreciated that. I also think there's something about, when you're a woman and you see a man, and I'm being general here, but you see a man personifying this feminine quality that is what we see as being derogatory for us as women, that can feel like a schism. And I also know some of my trans family folks who feel like seeing drag feels too scary because other people will think that they're doing drag instead of them being who they are. So you're speaking to something that is complex, and I want to say thanks for even noticing that. I find that the performance is about strength and power. There's something about being in your divineness that comes in this divine femininity that really is great. And there's like, did you ever see that reality show? It's
We're Here.
We're Here. If you haven't seen it, man.
HBO Max.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth watching because they go into small towns that have a lot of conservatism and anti-gay, anti-trans stuff. And these folks will come out and do drag, like the pastor of the place or the teacher or someone who's never been out before who's being out. And you can get the sense of what it means to be empowered. These folks then become empowered, and now they're part of this community that feels empowered. So.
Stay after because they may have questions for you.
I just wanted to add that Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yeah.
You have to see that if you haven't.
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Pose. That's a whole nother. Bawled my eyes out with that one. We could just do a movie thing this winter. We could just do.
There you go. Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you folks, please help me thank these wonderful people for the great presentation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.